Hey guys, Rob here, Iris Prop Masters, and today I am going to be jumping in my time machine, going back 40 something years, if only, and building this helmet exactly how it was done 40 something years ago. Okay, we're going to use all the same techniques, same materials, the same starting point. This is from a production made, all these components are from production made pieces, so this is pretty damn close to how the helmets were made, and the results of when they're put together is pretty close to what we see on screen. Yeah, I'm very fussy like that. We've done a lot of research into this, and I'm going to share it with you today. So let's go. Let's see what's in the kit then. First of all, we've got the faceplate. We've got the two main hemisphere parts, left and right. Move them around so you can see them in that light. We've got the bubble eyes. We have rubber trim for the bottom. We have the decals made by a good friend of ours, J-Tie Pilot. We have the metal greeblies for the ears. We have the forehead greeblies. We have the two ears for the side of the helmet, infill panel, chin strap, and the joining strip on the top. And let's not forget the trident. Okay, so we don't need to worry too much about all the components because I'm going to break it down and we're going to explain what everything's for. But yeah, there are a few components with this. And that means there are a few different stages with it. So let's start with stage one, which is the main kind of bulk of the helmet, the hemispheres, joining the two hemispheres together. I almost said that correctly. So let's get into it. Now, I'm pretty sure we usually send these out a little bit more trim than this. So I'm going to get them down to that stage. But if for some reason you got them like this, you're going to know exactly what to do. So I'm just going to cut away, get rid of a load of this material that we don't need. Again, I get comments about being quite brutal with this and the way we treat it, but that's the way it is. Do not be intimidated by the plastic. So if you're needing to cut this, you can see there is a line down the middle there. I don't know if you, yep. You can see there is a faint line down the middle. You need, I don't know what it is. I'm going to say an inch, but it's probably maybe a bit less. We'll just leave an inch on that side there. And you want to cut enough off. You don't want to have any raised area on here because that's going to cause us problems later on. So as long as you've got inch or 3/4 of an inch, doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be nice and straight. You know, it's kind of a bit haphazard. That's fine. Okay, so that's trimmed out now. Yours will probably arrive like this, okay? But if it doesn't, you know how to get to this stage. Just really roughly trimmed it out. Get rid of a bit of this plastic that we really don't need. Again, I'm using the shears for this just because there's a lot of material that I want to move quickly. You don't want to waste a lot of time on the part of the build where you don't need to be wasting time. Getting into this corner can be quite interesting. And the shears really don't want to get in there. Okay, and again, down the center of the helmet where the joining strip's going to go, I've got This side looks a little bit short, looks more like ½ an inch. Okay, let's get rid of this. Move these out of the way. Okay, our left and right hemispheres. This is the main kind of body of the helmet. Then we're going to put the face in there. Then we're going to dress it with the ears on the side. These little bad boys. They're kind of covering the join between these and the face. I mean, let's not forget, this is the basic X-Wing element of the helmet. And then we're going to add the Stormtrooper specific faceplate, and then the ears go with that. And obviously the trident. Okay, so there we go. Hemispheres roughly trimmed out like that. And at this point we can build. We can move from there. So on the back of this, on the end of this cover strip, I've got 3, you see them there? Get it in the light. These are approximate again, an inch. A little inch tab. It's pre-scored, I'm just going to snap them off. Okay, we don't need the cover strip. Now I will just point out that these, the cover strip and these little pieces that are part of it, that these are cut from, there's a good chance it's got this protective film on it. So I'm just going to take that film off. These will not have a film on. We remove the film before vac forming. Well, obviously these are not vac formed, hence why the film's still there. And it just protects it during shipping. So at this point you're probably thinking, what the hell are these 3 little tabs for? Well, so the 3 little tabs, what on earth are these for? Well, these basically hold these 2 parts together while we attach the main cover strip that's going to join the complete helmet. Okay, these are present on the original helmets, and they do make life a lot easier when you're building this. When we kind of saw them and worked out what they were there for, it made a lot of sense. Okay, so these are the exact same width as our finished cover strip, which is fine, but I'm just going to take a very thin sliver. I don't know if you can see how much I'm getting there. Let me cut it off. Right, so I've cut about this much off. Let me put it down. It's like a couple of millimeters. You see it? It's that one there. It's about a couple of millimeters, if that. Okay, that's just going to give me a bit more play on the very front of the helmet. So the one I've cut down, I'm going to save that for now, because we're going to start at the back of the helmet. So we have a corner here. I use this pointy stick. We have a corner, we have a corner here that we really need to utilize, because this flat edge here needs to marry with this flat edge here. Yeah, so those corners need are important for the build. Don't worry about the front. The front is going to be what the front is going to be. What we're concerning ourselves with is getting this square, because when we put that cover strip on, it needs to come around here, then it needs to fold flat, and it all needs to be square. Trust me, it's going to make sense as we get into this. Now the tabs go, one goes around here, one goes around the middle, one's going to sit in the back there, it's on the inside, one's going to sit approximately central, and one is going to be in the front section here. Okay, that's going to be that one that we cut shorter, which is over there. Don't want to confuse it, but I need two at this time. So I'm going to take my magnets. The guys here cover the magnets in the masking tape so that it doesn't mark or scratch the plastic in any way, but it just reminds me of a toffo. Remember toffos? Look at that. It's making me want a toffo. Toffos were a confectionery for kids in, I don't know what, 70s, 80s? Right, I'm just having a think now. You're gonna have to cut this bit out. I'm just trying to work out, because I don't actually do this. Right, I know how to do it. I mean, I came up with the idea, told the guys how to do it, and now I'm thinking, how do I do it? Right, so on the inside here, we've got, we can see there, I don't know if you can see it, it's quite difficult to pick up on camera because it's black, it's shiny, and doesn't really want to play the ball. But here, we've got, I'm going to call it a right angle, it's not a right angle, it's what do they call that?
45 degrees?
No, 45 is 90. I'm trying to think of the word. I don't think it's obtuse, I think it's the other one. I think it's the other one. But we've got a definite line that we can see in there with our actual eyes. You can't see it on camera too well. This piece is basically going to butt right up into that. Okay, I say right up into it, just come off it a little bit, just to give us a bit of wriggle room later on. Okay, now for speed, at this stage, I'm going to use a little bit of super glue. We are going to be using plastic weld, but I'm just going to kind of hold it in place with a bit of super glue. So if you get this nice and square, that's going to be a good start, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to stick the one that's in the middle. Can't really remember off the images. I'm just going to do it roughly central. There are not a lot of images of these tabs in the helmet. There are a few. They're out there. I'll see if I can put any on screen, and they're not easy to find. But when you're looking for these, then you're like, oh yeah, that's what it is. But there are definitely 3 of them. And as everything made 40 years ago for Star Wars, more than 40 years ago, it's kind of freestyled, so it's not all measured, it's just approximate. And we like it that way. Right. So now I've got 2 of those tabs. 2 of those tabs attached. Got the back one, and we've got the center one. I'm not going to put the front one on just yet because I'm going to use it to help me square this helmet up. And to do that, I think I want some clips. So I've got Paul's nipple clamps, and I might use a little bit of masking tape as well. And what I would like to do is try and hold this all together. And move that out of the way so you can see it. Right, so what I'm trying to achieve here is I really want the base of the helmet to be square. So I've got this piece on which is flat. Right, I'll take my toffos, give it a helping hand there. Yep, the base of it's square. Once we get into this, we're going to be golden, but yeah, I'm liking that. I'm liking it. Right, so I want everything to run square. As we know, these centerpieces, bridging pieces, tabs, whatever you want to call them, are the same as our cover strips. Or cover strip. Okay, that bottom piece, I'm looking at that, and that's nice and square. Yeah, so we've got that. That kind of shows it. So what Andrew has just pointed out to me is that I'm using this on the bench and I'm not using any protective foam. And he makes a good point there. I'm going to use some foam, okay? But in my defense, I am actually building this to be an ATA helmet, but it's a tie helmet, okay? For the purpose of this video, it's a tie helmet, it's going to be an ATA helmet. Same thing. I'm thinking it's probably not going to be finished as a tie helmet. We're just going to go through everything, and then when we get to the tie bits, I'll tell you about them and show you them how it all works, and it'll become an ATA helmet. That's this one. It's the same helmet. Okay. Shh. Let's carry on. You are going to want to use a piece of foam or something to protect it on the bench when you're doing this, if it's not going to be an ATA helmet. Right, okay, so I'm happy with that. It's all square. I don't know if it's making much sense with what you can see. Look at that. It's not, trust me, it's square. So the bit that I'm interested in is the first capture, which is this corner here being square throughout there. So because we've got this on, it's going to be. Okay, I'm happy with that. So when we cut that piece, it's going to work. It's going to make more sense when we get to that piece. So let's just make sure that's in where it needs to be. Yeah, happy with that. It's kind of looking all right. Still got some movement. Right, let's get some adhesive on there so that we can move on to the next bit and this will start making more sense. Childproof cap. Not that childproof, I beat it. Using our plastic weld, this is the adhesive that is very thin like water. And I'm going to paint it on here. And it's going to go up inside where these two pieces are joined. Capillary action. Love that expression. Okay, so if you're wondering how that's going to work, I've got a really good way of explaining this, because the other night I was at home and I managed to spill my beer all over the table. And you know when you're picking stuff up to get it out of the beer, well, there was a book on there and I didn't think there was much spillage there, but I thought I'll move the book anyway. And as I picked it up, the whole footprint of the book was just beer, really thin coating, because it just sucked it in. That's what this is doing right now. And this is a solvent-based plastic weld, so it's going to go in there. It's going to melt the two pieces of plastic very slightly, and then when it evaporates, it's going to have bonded them together. Okay. Looks like it's worked. I don't know why I'm saying it like I'm surprised. I do it all the time. Not say it like I'm surprised. I use plastic weld all the time. Just get a little bit more in there. Nice. Right, okay, so I'm going to move that for a second. So this is what we've got. We've now got the back end fixed there, and you can kind of see how this is flat. If I get it at the right angle there, you can see that that's fairly flat. So when we come down here and we cut our cover strip, we can fold it into there and we've got a nice obtuse angle. Yeah. Now at this point, we have still got some movement here. We can wobble this round, we can pull this forward. There is, as with all of these ABS helmets, there is room to maneuver here with the build to square things up and to make things look right. There's always wiggle room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this one in on the front. Now this is the tab that we cut just that sliver off the end. The reason why I've done that is because the front is a little bit more important, because when we're attaching the trident, when we're attaching this is bang on 85mm across the top of the trident. Let me see if I can get a reflection of the plastic. I'll turn it over because we've got a bit of plastic weld spillage from before, but it doesn't matter. So the trident is going to sit over the top of the cover strip, and we know the size that the cover strip is, fits in there very good. It's so difficult to see. There you go. It's going to fit tight in there. If this is too big, you're going to have a problem putting this on, and that's why I've trimmed it down just a touch. Actually, I'm going to take a tiny little bit more off, because if the front's too wide, we're going to have big problems. That gives me a bit more to play with. Right, so let's glue this in place. I'm very conscious that my plastic solvent weld is got the lid off and it's evaporating as I'm gassing. That's talking. You can clamp this, but by the time I found my clamps, it's probably going to have gone off. It's not going off. I'm going to try and clamp it. So I've stuck this on, I'm not going to say haphazardly, but I've not put a lot of care into it. It doesn't matter at this point. It's only one side. Ooh. Right. So I can now position my front tab exactly where I want it. And what I'm looking for is I'm eyeballing this. You see this area here? I want these to be quite level. I want it to be square. So if we look at this, okay, so there you can see that that doesn't look too clever. But if I pull it round, you can't see because my fingers are there. So I want to bring it so that these all look nice and nice and square. And I'm just going to eyeball it. And I mean, there's not a great deal to it. You're going on the aesthetic here. Now, let me get this in before I start talking. Right, so I'm looking at it. I've got the white background. Rather happy with it there. As you can see, it looks kind of square. I've got this nice and tight into the edges. Geez, this stuff's not going off very quickly at all. This is why they use plastic weld. Right, that leaves us with the one middle tab. Now at this point, we've still got a little bit of movement, a little bit of play that we can work on, but we don't need to. I'm pretty happy with that. Looks fairly square to each other. So I'm talking about this, the flat that we're going to put the cover strip onto. Yeah, quite pleased with that. Okay, I'll get my toffos on there. And we'll put some plastic weld on. I'm going to do both sides on this for speed. See as though we can get in there. Now, I'm not putting a lot of plastic weld in there. You don't need a lot. You put too much in and you might get it pooling and it'll start eating away at the plastic. It is attacking the plastic now, but it's doing it in a controlled way. We're controlling it by not putting a lot of plastic weld on there. Okay. Just let that go off. So, would you like to hear my anecdote on toffos? So toffos are a little toffee sweet that's wrapped in like a grease paper wrapper. And I once had a great big plastic bag of them in my kitchen cupboard. And I went out to work and I came home and I discovered that my dog had climbed up on the countertop opened the door, removed the toffos, for some reason closed the door, had the toffos on the floor, and then somehow had eaten about, I don't know, 50, 60 toffos. Now, if you've ever opened one, you'll know that they're quite difficult to open. So how the dog must have spent the whole day rolling these toffos round and then spitting the paper out. Crazy. Crazy. I don't think I've had toffos since then. Right, okay. What I will say is, when we're talking about making the helmet square, there is not a great deal on this helmet that is symmetrical in any way, shape or form. But that's it, we've got our carcass built and I'm very happy with that. Okay, that is our main carcass built. That's all there is to it. How long have we been going? A few minutes? We've got that. Right, let's prep. Let us prep our cover strip. And to do that, I need a sharp knife, a ruler, and a pencil. Neither of which I've got. I'm just going to double check this before I give out sizes. Yeah, that's what I thought. Right, so I'm just going to mark 2" or 50mm on the bottom here. It's really difficult to see. Right, so you do want this to be square, okay? Yeah, that looks okay. Right, before I snap that, this is perhaps where this one differs a little bit from an X-Wing helmet. On the X-Wing, it's much more bent around, whereas on this one, I don't know if they were scored and snapped and it's two separate pieces. I don't particularly like doing that because it doesn't line up fantastically. Okay, so I've, rather than break it and break it off, I've bent it on that angle. And now I want to offer it up into position like so. Should we put it on there? It might stop it sliding around. Now, before we do this, can you see that from the above camera? This piece is going to get cut down. I like to have a little bit extra just to play with. But there, this part of the helmet gets removed. This part, you can see it. But because it's standing up, it's going to stop this sitting down where I want it to. So I'm going to remove that. I only need to do it in this area. So I already took it off this side in anticipation of needing to do this. But I left this side, luckily, so we can explain what we're doing here. So I'm just going to cut some of that away. You can sand it, you can use whatever techniques you want. But that is almost your finished helmet size right there. So I've just removed a little bit from here to allow the plastic to lay flat on this flat edge. This is a bit to show this black, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll show you this and you won't be able to see it, but so that is what we're looking for. Yeah. So we've got that nice angle on both sides. Or we will have. It's got to push it into place. Right, so I'm going to take my toffos. We use a lot of these magnets. They're very handy for those jobs where you need more than two hands. Don't use that bit. You having fun?
Yeah.
It's moved. Okay, so I'm just shuffling this round on the helmet so that I'm perfectly happy where it's going to sit. So obviously this is going to bend right round here and end up at the front of the helmet. And you probably can't see that because this is black. Right, my brothers. I'm quite pleased with that. So, I don't know if you can see that on the... I'm almost pleased with it. It's still not quite. A little bit of time now is worth all the effort. Right. I'm relatively happy with that. I've not got a whole lot more magnets, so I'm just going to take this down to get it out of the way so it's not slapping me in the face every time I move this helmet round. But I think you're getting the idea. I think you're getting the idea now. Right, so this is the bit that we're concerned with. This back quarter here. From kind of here down here, I want to fix all of that in position. I'm happy with the way that's sat in both sides. So I'm going to go right ahead and put my plastic weld in. Let's see if we can show this. Can you see inside there?
It's sort of fall, yeah, but you need to bring it down more to something.
Like that?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my plastic weld so that it's going to, I'll put it on here or on this joint, and it's going to go underneath there, and it's going to attach itself to that inch or 3/4 inch, half inch, however much we left on that flat edge on the hemisphere earlier on. But I'm only going to put it down the bottom. You can't really see what I'm doing too well, but I'm putting it in the bottom where my magnets are holding this nice and tight. And I'm trying to get a little bit on the back piece there that the clip is holding. It's so difficult to see. Hope you're getting this. Can you see this side maybe? Let's see if I can get that in the light. Right, so plastic weld on the bottom end here, just let that evaporate, go off, harden up a little bit. And then from that point, we're going to move everything down the helmet. So ideally what we should have is a nice, the nice straight of the cover strip, and then like the rounded areas on the side of the trident. Okay, let's put a little bit of this on so we can start moving these up, and this will hold it in place. All nice and tight. I'm wondering if we should have done a build in white plastic to show this. Right, let's move these magnets up a little. Now we don't want to, a tip for you, we don't want to do too big an area, because you want those magnets to hold this really nice and tight. We've got the masking tape on as well, which isn't going to do us any harm. I'll pull that nice and tight. Okay, we can even put another piece in there. What we don't want is any leakage from when we put the plastic weld on the inside. We don't want anything to come out on the outside of the helmet, so we just want it to be nice, the two surfaces nice and tight. And again, I'm not going to use a lot of this to encourage it to not leak out onto the helmet. When I'm saying that, it's not like it's not like they leak out very often. Well, they don't leak out. There. I'm going to sit it that way so it doesn't pool up. Tidy up some of this bench while we go. It doesn't take long to go off. So as you can see, we've got a bit of excess on the front here that we don't need. We can remove that, it's not going to be any problem. Right, let's go again. Move these around a little. Okay, I'm just checking to make sure that those two faces, this face and the one that's below it, the return that we left on, just making sure there's no gaps, because gaps will give you leakage and gaps will not give you a strong bond between the two surfaces. I'm just loading the brush, just like you would a paintbrush. It is a paintbrush, so just paint it in there. I'll see when we've done, I'll see if we can show the marks that it's left behind. Okay, I'm just going to, while that's going off, I'm just going to go to the bottom, have a look at it, make sure we're happy. Make sure it's stuck. Yeah, it looks good. I'm probably going to stick these on the top here. Right, let's move these forward then. Okay, final bit of plastic weld on this. That is what our inside looks like. I don't know if you can see where the plastic weld's been painted on there. You can kind of see that shiny surface that it leaves. So interesting to know, at this point in the build, we've not really done a great deal of sanding, and that's unusual when building a Star Wars helmet. There will be sanding to come, but we've managed to get to this stage without even switching the Dremel on. But the sanding is coming. Right, let's just have a look at this front before I put the lid on the plastic weld. So I want to get a little bit in there. Can you see that? You can't really see it, but there's a little springy gap there. I just want to get that bottomed off. So I'll bring the magnets forward. And then I'll very gingerly put some plastic weld on, but at an angle so as not to encourage it to go on the outside. If you do get a small amount on the outside at this point, it's not going to be the end of the world, because the trident is going to cover a lot of this. Or you can use super glue. So here, I don't know if you can see that. see if I can get it in the light. Yeah, I think you can just about see it. Here we've got the cover strip here, then the hemisphere half there, that half inch, and then our tab on the inside. So there's 3 layers of it. And I'm just going to put the plastic weld on there. That's going to bond everything together nicely. Notice how I moved it. I didn't want to leave it at that angle to encourage it to go on the outside of the helmet. I think that bit's going to grab, but it's taking a bit of time, so I'm going to put a little bit of super glue in there. Just a little drop, let it run down there. Clamp her up. Don't really know how to describe how I'm feeling about this now, or what I would call this stage of the build. But basically the hemispheres are together. Now, is that the more difficult part of the build? I don't know. But we're a chunk of the way in now, as you can see. I'm quite happy with that kind of squareness that we've got. Everything's lined up how I would expect. Sit down on the bench. It's a bit front heavy at the moment. Yeah, pleased with that. Right, let's see what we got. I mean, you've got to hand it to the designers. The way these things go together. You know, the technique they came up with for building this. Really cool. Right, we'll get that trim in later, but this is what we've got. Let's give it a from the back there round to the front. The 2 pieces are joined, and it's very dark and you can't really see it, but it's together. But it needs trimming out, ready for the face to go in there. Okay, so I will do that right now. And before we do, let's put the lid on this, because that will be escaping. Right, so it's going to be Dremel time. There are a couple of areas here that I can just remove with the shears though, just to save a little bit of time. So there is, you can see kind of where the bottom of this line is going to be when it's trimmed, and then here. There. So that rough edge there, we're just going to take that out. Quite difficult to see, isn't it? This gets trimmed away. This gets covered anyway with the ears later on. Trim a little bit of that away. These lines that I'm cutting to, you can see them pretty clearly on the vac formings where I'm cutting. Be careful in this corner, it's easy to get a bit overzealous and damage the bit that we want to keep right into this corner. So, especially when you're cutting from this angle, because of the curvature of the helmet and the shape of the tools, where they clash, and that's where you can run off. So I don't go too close in that corner. Right, let's give this a quick trim.
Try and do it to the overhead piece, yeah.
Some of this. Okay, so here we have our built base helmet. You see that on the, you see how square that is? And let's see if you can see the where it's trimmed there. So difficult to see. Hopefully you're going to see a bit more when we start putting the face in. If not, I will do something to the face to allow it to show a little bit more. But that is the build of the main helmet. And from there, we are now going to add the face. But before I do, I need to trim the eyes out of the face. And once the face is in there, it's a case of putting the ears and the trident on, and she's pretty much built. I can't believe how little you can see of this helmet. This is ridiculous, building black helmets. Whose idea was it to build a black helmet? That is a big chunk of this build out of the way. We've got the face to put in there and these components and some greeblies, but that is the main job, is getting to this stage. This is quite easy, to be quite honest. I don't think it's a difficult build, but built. I don't think this one's a difficult build. Let's do it again. It's not a particularly difficult build, this helmet. It is actually quite enjoyable when you break it down, and especially this, attaching this trident is the key to it. But I'm going to show you some good tips and tricks on how you can't really go wrong with that. Especially if you've got this front section right, because you made that inner tab that little bit shorter. So the should have said when we made that shorter, that was to accommodate the thickness of the plastic on the outside of it. I didn't say that, but I've just said it now, so hopefully that still makes sense. Because you probably watched the whole video before you even started the build. Am I right? Okay, so join us next time and we will complete this tie/ATAT helmet. Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to continue our build of the TIE Pilot or ATAT helmet. Okay, if you remember in the last video, we got up to the stage where we built the main shell, put the two halves together with the cover strip. Now we're moving on to the next stage and we're going to add the face into this shell. Okay, let's go. So I'm going to prepare the face to add to the main helmet, and to do this I need to cut a little section out here. There are some little markers that are going to guide us, and I need to trim the eyes. You don't need to do this beforehand. I always do. I'd recommend that you do too. You don't need to do anything with the teeth. The teeth stay intact as they are. Okay, so that saves us a job. So I just need to trim the eyes out at this point, which I'm going to do now. Okay, a little note for you. I'm going to go all the way through and finish the trim using the Dremel. If for any reason you don't want to do that, you can just thin it down as I have done here, and it's going to be a lot thinner to get your knife in there, do it with a scalpel or a Stanley knife. There's going to be less plastic because we took the bulk of it away, and you can just whittle away at it if that's what you prefer. But I'm just going to go with this because that's the way I usually do it. If you look in there, you might not pick up on the camera too well, but if you look in there, you can see where you're trimming to. And there's a little bit more that's taken out of this than, let's say, the stunt helmet. You can see it in there, and that's to allow the bubble eyes to push further up. There's much more of a definite curve, whereas the stunt helmet is a bit flatter. There's more flashing that remains. Okay, but we're going to take that away. And you can do this in 2 stages. You can take the bulk of this out and then tidy it up, whichever way you're more comfortable with. I'll turn my Dremel on. Can you see where I broke through with the white? Okay, once you've got the bulk of that material out of there, if you can see that, I've got some rough edges. I'm going to go at it with sandpaper. Now, a tip for you, if you're concerned, you can put some masking tape around the outside. I'm not overly concerned, and it's going to be an ETA helmet, so it's going to get painted anyway. So I'm just going to go for it. What I'm trying not to do here is to touch these edges while I'm sanding this edge, and that's all it is. That's what you want to protect if you're not overly confident. That's your area to watch. This is the one where it's easy to touch part you don't want to touch. Okay, so that's what we're going for. Okay, we can tidy that up a little bit more. A little bit later on, we're going to be putting the bubble eyes in to check it. You can be doing that at this stage if you really want, obviously when you've got both of the eyes out. But that's it, it's pretty simple. You can go at this with a knife. All depends what you're more confident with. I don't particularly like using a knife. A lot of the guys here do use the knife. I'd much rather go at it a little bit more cautiously and sand away with my sandpaper for that final finish. Down that overhead, yeah. So once you've got both your eyes trimmed out, it's going to look something like this. Yeah, as you can see, there's not a great deal of return left on there. There's just enough. Your bubble eyes are going to help as you're putting them in there. You're going to get a feel for it. Okay, but I would recommend take off a little at a time. Right, once we've got the eyes done, I'm going to quickly remove this piece here. Okay, as I've said before many times, nothing's really symmetrical on this helmet, so I would recommend just going by your eyes and having it the way you want it to look. This needs to be, this cutout we're going to make is approximately 30 millimeters from the top of the eyes here. Okay, so I'm going to join them up. So that's what I'm going to remove, this section here. Again, if you watched any of the other tutorials, I'm not going right down to the corner because the shears have a tendency to put a split in it, and I don't want that. But I am going to try and remove as much as I can. Right, I'm happy with that. So I've just removed this section here, and we're going to put a piece behind that, and there's going to be some grooves that cover this up. Why they did this, not 100% sure. It's not required. I don't know if they were thinking of something different happening before the trident happened, or if they thought they needed it removed for the trident to fit. Don't know. It's an interesting part of the design. Let us know what you think in the comments below. But it is what it is. This is how they were made, so this is how we make them. Right, now we need to offer this up to this. Just going to sand that a little bit more actually. Right, again, nothing is symmetrical on this helmet. So all you can do is, if you run, I'm running the pencil up right in the center of the teeth, and it doesn't look too bad on the camera actually, but believe you me, the teeth are not symmetrical. So what I tend to do is put it up there in the center between the eyes, and I'm going to use that as my center point. Like so. And then I'm going to do something very similar on here. I'm going to measure this because we know what the center point should be, which is 42.5 millimeters. But I mean, it is what it is. Okay, you will notice if you look closely that there are what looks like drill holes, kind of 2 indents there. So I'm going to go into those. If this is not the best thing to see on camera, it's also not the best thing when you've got it in hand. You have got to move it round, get it in the light. Right, I sanded this last time I think, but it still feels a little bit rough, so just tidy that up. Nicer. Okay, this is kind of one of the main components of the build that you don't want to mess up. So we're going to introduce these two together, and I'm going to run this line and this line straight through, and then I'm going to obviously follow my 2 little arrows. I'm just going to eyeball it, there's no measuring going on. Okay, that looks about right. Now it's difficult to see, but there is a pencil mark there. Let's get my old 4BAs. In fact, getting excited, jumping ahead of myself. I'm going to prepare this This is an extra little piece of plastic, comes in the kit. I think it's about 6 inches, a little bit more, 6.5 inches by 2.5 inches. And this is going to sit behind that cutout that we made. And I'm gonna put it about 5 mil above the eyes. So this is the bottom of the insert, and this is the top of the eyes here. And there's a gap of about 5 mil, maybe more, maybe 8 mil. And we're going to use that later on. You don't want to do it too close because the bubble eyes are going to go in there. And I'm going to use this to trap the bubble eyes, and that's going to be one of the things that's going to hold those in place. Okay, so I'll just get that where I want it. Yep, happy with that. So it's approximately central. And as I say, it's about 5 to 8 mil above the eyes. Make a mark. And we've got our drill hole. So now let's put the screw through all of these pieces. Through the outer helmet, through the faceplate, and through the insert at the back there. And I'll put the washer and the nut. These are brass 4BAs, just like the original helmet. And if you've got a Stormtrooper helmet, these are the screws that basically hold the bottom of the ears on the Stormtrooper helmet. Same length, I think they're 5/8 of an inch, something like that. Right, okay. So now the face is half secured, but we've got one point. It's being held in one point, which is good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically eyeball it to get the face where I want it. Okay, so some of the things I'm looking at is this edge here being square to here, and the bottom-ish, square-ish. Right, so one of the things to consider on this, you can manipulate this around, you can stretch it, and you can do all kinds of stuff. So just get it how you want it. Okay, I'm quite happy with that there. Mark the hole. Okay, that's going to be my drill hole. So I drill the hole. And I'm going to pivot this round. Again, make sure it's about 8 mil, 5 to 8 mil from this edge. I'm just looking at my thumb, it looked really weird, like it was a little face or something. I think it's just the distance I'm looking at it from. Okay, so I'm going to mark through that onto the insert piece where I want the hole drilling. While I'm doing that, I don't know if you can see, I'm holding it at the back in the right place with the height there, but I'm also holding it so that it's flush with the face. Can you see that? So you don't want it baggy, you don't want a gap here. I'm pushing it up so that it's flush. Right, let's move that out of the way, and we're still fixed. I've just rotated it round, and there I can see my hole that I marked. So I'm going to drill that. Nice. Right, and then we just repeat that same procedure. Screw from the outside through the helmet, through the face, and through that panel on the inside. Washer and nut on there. And you will see, if you've done this right, you will notice that you've got some curvature to the panel on the inside. I don't know if I can get that in the light. Focus. There. So on that panel there, you can see the distance from the eyes, about 5 to 8 mil, just enough to get the bubble and lenses to sit up behind it. And it just traps it in place, and we've got that curvature. So it's following, as best it can, the contour of the faceplate. Let's go from above. We've not got, here, I've not got a big gaping gap. Can you see that? That shows it, doesn't it? Yeah, so it's almost replaced that piece that we cut out. So why did we cut it out? That's the question. Could have been left in there. I don't know if there was a different part of the design that changed. Don't know. But that's back in there. But it does act as something for us to sandwich the bubble eyes in later on. We'll get to that. Right, okay. So next, we've got a little bit of movement here. Just want to bring this into position, just like so. In fact, I'll just drill a hole first of all. Again, there's a little indicator of where to drill, and then I can bring it into position. Now I'm using my fingers, these fingers, on the inside of the face just to push the two pieces together. So they're now sat right next to each other, closed up, because when the screw's in there, that's what they're going to do. Okay, I'm right on the edge of the faceplate. And again, one of these small screws, 4BAs, through the outer shell, through the face. So you can probably see the screw in there. It's just through the two pieces. Now at this point, I am going to add my chin strap, which has not got a hole in it yet. Okay, you shouldn't need to do this, but if you do, for whatever reason, I just punched a hole in there. I've just used a brad awl to open it up. Right, so my chin strap goes in, and it's going over the screw there. And again, washer and nut. I'm just holding the nut in place with my fingers while I screw that in. Okay, this side I've not cut quite enough off the helmet. There's still some flashing left there, so let me just trim that away.
Can you just talk about why you're not using any foam?
We did mention that in previous videos. I do have a piece of foam here, which I would use if it was a helmet that I was bothered about, but as it's going to get painted, I'm not too bothered, and they're pretty hardy, although the black does show marks quite easily. Right, again, I'm going to drill that hole first. You can see the little kind of indent of where the hole was when the molds were made. So I've got a hole there, drill mark there, drill a hole. Now at this point I'm gonna put my screw in to anchor it, and I'm just gonna have a look and see what I think. So this is what I'm looking at. So I'm just seeing how square everything looks. You can distort these helmets. It's possible to twist and clamp it in the wrong place. But I'm very happy with that. That's come out exactly the way I thought it would. So I will continue with the screws. So again, the opposite side of the chin strap goes in. Unlike the TK ones, we don't have a snap. It's just a piece of elastic stretched across the helmet and anchored at these 2 points. And that is that. You probably could put this in later. I find it easier to do it at this stage because the screws are less accessible once the ears are in position. There we go. Nice chin strap. Okay, pretty taut. So with it, it's got some resistance when it's under your chins. Right, so that is the face now installed into the helmet. Yeah, relatively happy with that. So it's so asymmetrical. It's quite unbelievable. When it's all together, it's so much easier on the eye. Right, so I've got some lines drawn on these, and I'm going to trim them down to the line, clean the edge, and install the ears. There's no particular order to this. You can do the ears first, trident first. It's really your own call. So I'll just remove a little more of this with the shears so that I don't have to Dremel for as long. Right. Allow me to just trim these up into some sort of finished state. So on the bottom of the ears here, there is quite a rough area, so you're going to see where you need to cut to. There's no pencil line, you don't need it. Okay, oh, there's a bit there that I missed, look. Right, quick trim. Now, I don't know if you can see that. Put it on there, can you see? It's not super smooth, it's quite angular on the trim, especially there. I don't know if you can see that. But that's fine, because we're going to kind of put the finish to it with sandpaper. I'm just going to deburr it. You can sand it. If you don't have that tool, not a problem. Right, okay. Yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. I think if you look at the original ones, the edges are very rough. It looks like they've been cut out with a bandsaw. That's the suspicion. So super rough. If you're going to try and make a forgery, you might want to do it that way. But we kind of get a relatively clean edge so that people are not shocked and horrified when they see it. But the original builds were quite rough, I'll be honest. Okay, 4mm hole drilled in there. We'll go to the side of the helmet. And you can see we have a little indent in the helmet there. Remove that. Sharp drill. There. Finished helmet, not good. Let me see if I can pick it out in it. There she is. Yeah, you see that? There is a small indent there, and there's another one on the other side where you would expect to find one. So stick that hole in there. Right, I'm going to secure it with a screw. Technically, this is how they were done for A&H TIE pilots. If you are building the kit of the TIE helmet, we do supply it with the ear greeblies and a screw that you can put from the inside out and hold the whole ear on with the ear greebly. It's the same, exact same thing. The ear greebly works as the nut, and the screw comes from the other side, holds the ear in place. Everything's fine. The reason we do that is because although they were built like this, the greebly was stuck on top of it. They tend to fall off and get lost. You don't want to do that if you're wearing your TIE pilot as a costume, because it's just going to be gone. Okay, but I will show you how that works, if I remember in a moment. Right, so the ear is on. We've still got some trimming to do around the bottom edge of the helmet, but we shall get to that. Right, okay. So we've got a nice join on there. I'm very happy. I'm going to leave that. We are going to put some glue on this, but I'm not going to do it just yet. because I'm going to get the other ear prepared. So when we're usually sanding, we're usually up and down. But on these, I'm kind of going in a longer motion, following the ear. ABS sand's really easy. And you are going to get rid of all the imperfections that you want. If you don't use a deburring tool, just want to go at the opposite angle, because where you're sanding, you're going to build up on that inside. Just give it a sand off there. Easy. Easy peasy. It's a very satisfying build, the tie helmet. It's not I don't think it's super difficult. I think it's technically it's probably easier than a Stormtrooper, because your Stormtrooper ears, you've really got to work at them to get the finish that you're looking for. Whereas these, quite considerably more forgiving. It's not even a screwdriver, it's a bradawl. Okay, so we are attached, we're not glued yet. There are some elements we're going to trim down here. Right, okay, so the ears are loosely in place and they're following the contour of the helmet, as they should by and large, and they're pretty even. At this point, if you want to, if you need to, these ears will move around. So if you want to try and marry them up, you know, you can meet them. I like to have them, get it in position around there, so that these are fairly level there with the chin strap inside. You've got a little bit of symmetry going on. It's kind of a bit of a joke to say symmetry when you're building this helmet, because there is no symmetry, but you can try, you can make it look pretty. Right, so I'm happy with this. This is touching the cheek area exactly as I want it to. It kind of looks a bit further back. You think it should go like that, but it does end up being kind of a little bit further back on this side. Again, check your reference pictures, see what you want to do. I am marking that with a pencil line, and I'm going to use a little super glue if I can find one of these. I've not been on this bench for a few days, so we should be good. So I'll get some activator on the inside of the ear. Let me position that so you can see it. Good, I'm not doing this very well. Where is it? There it is. Right, so on the inside there is where I want my activator sprayed. Okay, and I'm going to just run a little bead of glue just up that. There we go, we'll come out. Just behind the pencil line, because as I bring this over to it, I'm going to kind of drag it through the glue, and I'm just going to let it sit there. And I'll let the activator do all the work. Lovely. Right, so let's check that again. Yeah, happy with that. Looks as I would, looks where it should be from experience. So I'm just going to repeat that same exercise. Bit of activator in there, little bit of glue just behind the line. Bring that over and just drag it. Just hold that in position. Yeah, I'm liking that. Oh, we didn't trim this bit off yet. So you can kind of see, you can see the outline where it wants to go. And I'm going to want this. I'm going to want to follow this line. Right on the overhead, you might see it better. Maybe not. So I'm going to trim this out here, and I'm going to follow this line down the ear, down there. Shall I show you? I'll cut it out. So I want to come down here, up there. Something like that. Right, okay. So we're starting to get somewhere now. Let's see what we've got. We've got the ears on, we've got the face in, we've got the bulk of the shell built. So we need to go around the bottom and trim that out, and we need to apply our good friend the trident. I'm going to move that so you can see the helmet better. But if you don't want to scratch yours up, use a piece of foam. You probably won't be doing it when you're getting videoed, so that will make life a little bit easier for you. Right, trident. Let's give this a trim out, and then we can look how it's going to sit on the helmet. So you'll notice I'm using the shears on this. Just cutting those out. Very thin there. When the plastic is vac forming, you're stretching a piece of plastic all the way down the inside of there, and it's caught between all these points. So by the time it gets down there, it goes thin. That's intentional, that's the way they are. But it's, compared to the top, it's much more reminiscent of, I believe the term is a chocolate box. The vac forming industry. That's when your forming goes super thin. On a chocolate box, I think it's intentional because it's thin plastic, keep costs down. Right, so there are some outlines on here that we can go to. I don't know if you can pick them up too well. Yeah, you can see it, can't you? They're scribed into the tool just to give you a bit of a helping hand. So this here, we want to go to a depth of about 1/2 inch. But by the time you've got that off, you can see where the flat needs to be there. So I'm going to go in there and round and down there. Something like that. This is the rough part, we've still got to trim this out. But we can rough it first. Okay, so we want to go from these points down to this point, right down to there, and then I just want to go around all these edges, just square it up and make it look pretty. Okay, now to do this, you're going to need a bigger ruler. And you can mark it and get a nice straight line, or I usually put it on the belt sander to do this, but for you good people today I will do it this way.
Can you do that more for the overhead?
I can't, I need to have it off the edge of the bench. I'll bring it over. I can't put this under the camera because to do this I need to have these, to mark it out I need to have these off the edge of the bench to get this to lay flat. But all I've done is from this point here where this comes up, where it meets the top, I took it back to there, same on both sides. Okay, so now I've got these lines marked. You're probably not going to see them because very difficult to see even when it's in hand. But I've basically marked a straight line from there to there. And that is the material that I'm now going to remove. So I can get in there with my shears to get this side off. Not so easy the other side, because I'm right-handed and the shears get in the way. So I will just use the Dremel. Let's have a tidy up. Yeah, a good chef washes up as he goes. Some waste coming off this, isn't there? Quite a mess that we make with this one. Right, this will be the last of the mess. So I'm just going to Dremel this up, or you could sand it or cut it with a knife, however you want to do it, but we need to get this into a finished state. So I'm going to go from this to finished. Can you see that line? I can see it real good. Right, so this line here, let me get this out of my hand. This line here, the side here, this is pretty self-explanatory, and this obviously, we're just going from point A to point B. So they're easy to understand. On the bottom here, there are some little marks that are present in the forming that you can follow, and with this you want it about 1/2 inch, 12mm-ish, and just square it up by eye. Yeah, I wouldn't just work by eye, I wouldn't bother trying to measure anything. So I'm just going to clean round the front of this now, which is these two bottom edges, the three fronts, and then the internals of these angles. I usually start on the front as well, the very front. When I got the overhead, will you see it better there? Right, so once I've got these front tips here, once I've got these to the desired length, which is pretty much marked on the tool, once I've got that, there, these three, I can now square all this up. So make that point there nice and sharp. The same here and in the inside. So we've got 6 faces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm just going to get those nice and square to the fronts, and then if the back needs anything, you'll get something. Right, that's the bulk of the sanding done, probably done with the Dremel. Just going to go away with sandpaper now and just clean up the edges. So here, you can sand at this edge, this way, and sand right into that corner, then flip it round and sand at that angle. I know it's difficult to see, but you can get a nice angle in there. So come it this way into that corner and then this way. And again, moving along the edge, and it will smooth out surprisingly quickly. If you're going to go at this in this kind of angle, you may want to protect the top. I've ran off and scratched it a little bit, but I don't care because it's not a tie helmet. The inside of there, this inside angle, because it's thin, really easy to sand. So. I don't think I got that with the Dremel. It's not quite where I want it to be. So this bottom edge here is quite, as you can see, it's quite flat. It's going on the table nice. There, there's no reason why you couldn't sand this in that motion on your sandpaper. And similar to how you've got point A and B here, you have those that run round the inside there. So once you've got your front set, you can see where everything's going to be. Just take some of that nonsense off. Right, okay. Let's tidy up again. You can see what's going on. Slightly better, perhaps. Right, so trident. We're going to put the trident in place. As you know, goes like that. You've seen an ATAT helmet before. Oh, let it slip then, didn't I? Bit rough on that edge. Let me just get that burr off. That's better. It's a great tool, this. If you are going to build a few things, a deburr is so nice on plastic. Right. So we know how this sits. Goes on the top here, finishes the helmet off, makes it look very attractive, and hides all of this mess that's going on right here. So let's get it attached. We're firing through this now, aren't we? So I've got a little masking tape. I'm going to put it in position. It's going to be difficult to...
Hold it. Camera through.
Hmm?
Bring it to camera through.
No, I don't think you're getting it. You need it on that one over there. I'm going to do this so you guys can see it, and then I'll probably do it again so I can actually see it. But what I want is this to be square with the rest of the face. Okay, so in here I want these to all be nice and square, and I want it to kind of sit square on this cover strip. So if I pull it right back onto the cover strip, see what that looks like. That's not far off actually. Right, so I've got my tape in place. Okay, now I'm not overly keen, it needs to move a little bit. I think it was better before. Okay, so we're going to pull that down into that kind of shape. These sides are going to go onto the sides of the helmet. Okay, it's not going to touch here. There are going to be gaps, and I don't want it too far down the face. You can move this up and down so you've got more or less gap here. I think I want to bring that back a little bit. Yeah, I'm happier with that. Let's just have a look. Get the tape holding it down. Forgive me a minute while I take a look. Yeah, quite happy with that. Yeah, we're going to bring it down into that kind of position. Right, okay, so that leaves us with the tail. Where's that going to fit? That's not too bad. I'm quite happy with that. It's not, if I measured this, I doubt that that is going to be absolutely central, but it's not too far off. And the original ones are not actually that central. Let me see if I can get a measure on this. This is a bad. So we know the measure is about 42.5. Oh, I've made it look easy, but it's gone on nice. That's all to do with the front of it being square, and when we built the rest of it, getting it eyeballed in, looking good. But that actually has ended up sitting very nice. But I'll give you a tip in case it doesn't. This bit, if you've made this and you've cut this and you put it on there and you get this so it looks a bit central, and this bit doesn't look right on the front, ignore this. You want to get your front looking right. Okay, get it in position, tape it down like so. Okay, and if this is running out, say this was over here more, then alter this, cut this a little bit more. This might end up being a midge shorter. It's going to look better. It's going to save the helmet. That's the best way of doing it, and that's what I'd recommend. Right, okay, I'm good. I'm happy with that. I actually went on without me having to show you that, which I kind of was expecting that I would be able to show you. Right, so I'm going to take the back into position. Yep, happy with that. I'm going to remove this. Right, I'm going to pull this down here. I'm going to go on the overhead there. So I'm going to pull this down into that position. That's how it's going to sit. You can see this doesn't touch here. Doesn't touch the face. You can see that gap there. Can kind of half get a finger in just here. That's fine. Check out the original helmets. You're going to see that. So you could cut a little bit more of this off if you really wanted to. On that back corner, it's going to bring it down just a touch more. I'm not going to. That is more than acceptable. So I've got a pencil line on there. This side, if I can hold the helmet. This side tends to sit a little bit tighter. Just double check that. Yeah. Yeah. Right, okay, so I'm going to fix it. I'm going to use the super glue. So I'll get in there with my activator and I'm spraying it on this area on the inside, obviously. Small amount of super glue on here, again, just behind that line. And that side. I don't tend to go too far down. I'll put a little bit on the top, just where that trident's been.
Is there something else I can help with?
AI's going crazy. Right.
How to respond to that?
So I'm just going to hold that in place for a couple of seconds. Yeah, it's taking. Lovely. Right, so now I just need to, I thought it would make a better noise. Right, so now we need to fix that down. And you can see what we're looking like. So, this may surprise you. Just got a little bit of an overhang there. Let's get rid of that. Totally unnecessary and just being a bit of a perfectionist. Right. I'm looking for a little bit of scrap ABS. Usually it'd be all over the bench because I wouldn't tidy up as I go. But so it look nice and pretty for you guys, I've swept it all away. Let me just get another piece. While you're building, just keep a little piece of plastic. Right. So I've got a little bit of ABS, totally flat, so that I can put some super glue on there. I can rub it on the inside, yeah, of the trident, and then we can hold it in place. Yeah. So let's do that. Okay, first of all, just put a little bit of activator on there, let it start evaporating. Right, put some glue on here. You don't want a lot of glue on this bit. Yeah, so I'm going to start further down here. I'm going to kind of drag it up there, smear it all around. And I'm just going to run my fingers down the edges there, just so that there's no excess. Okay, and then just working from the front, roll it down. If you stick your finger to it, we've all been there. Right, I've got some excess of the old activator. We've got the marks here where I sanded it. Not a problem, because this is not going to be a tie helmet, but at least you're aware of that situation. Okay, so that is about as symmetrical as this helmet's going to get. It should look good. Right, I'll tell you what, let's give it a quick trim on the bottom. There's not a great deal to see here. You can see the marks all around the front, and you just want to follow that through around the bottom here, and you can see them around the back. This is going to come off around there. I'll take that off, and then in a nutshell, we have it. Right. So, there is our helmet built. Now what we need to do is dress this with the greeblies, put the rubber trims on and the eyes, stickers, think about if we want to do a paint job or if we want to go with a background basic helmet. But that will wait until next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Do come back for the next part where we are going to finish this helmet completely. And that is built and assembled helmet. That's the bit I like. See you next time. Here we go. The tie helmet. That's probably going to be an ETA. The tie helmet, the final leg, the last furlong, the end game. We are going to go from the helmet we built in the last video, which is this. We are going to put all the finishing touches on there. So that's the rubber trim, we're going to install the foams, we've got the pillbox for the back, we've got the stickers of the decals, we've got the little greeblies for the forehead and the visor. And I'm going to show you now how we're going to attach all of these to this, and then this is going to be complete. So without any further ado, let's get into this. Right, I've got a little way that I do this. You don't have to do it this way. This is just the way I do it. So here are little components, if you want to see them. Let's move some of that out of the way. And I'm going to start with these metal greeblies that sit on the ear. So we did talk about this before. Now, if you're a purist, they had a little bit of glue of some kind on the back of there. Bang, on it goes, job done. You could do it that way. Or, I'm going to change the camera angle because it looks a bit weird. If you're not displaying this helmet and you're going to be wearing this at conventions or swingers parties or wherever you may be wearing this helmet, it's going to be away from your display area. You probably don't want to lose this tiny piece. There we go. So this is the ear greeble. As we all know, this is the piece from the Mitchell turntable, which actually changes the speed. The drive band goes around this. The notch allows it to go from to go from this groove into the larger groove. Fascinating. But there we go. So that's doing the same job as the screw. We've just screwed that onto a screw from the inside. I'm going to do it again. I'll do it again on the other side and you can see exactly what I mean. But that is the end result. We've got our greebly attached. That isn't going to fall off. Safe in the knowledge that that is going to remain in position forever. So we'll do this on the other side. So I'm going to put the screw, I'm going to find the hole, and I'm going to put the screw through from the inside. I'm going to find it, there it is. So that thread will protrude from the hole, and then I'll just screw this on. It's just finger tight. There's no tools required for this. Again, I'm just holding it on the back with my finger so it doesn't spin. And there we go. 2 greeblies installed. Thank you. Okay, next, let's put the rubber on.
Are you not going to show how to do that if you glue them?
It doesn't really matter. I will mention gluing. Oh, what, them? Putting them on?
Yeah.
No, because if you are going to glue these, attach them with glue, don't know what glue you would want to use. I never do that, because you're just going to get lost. We did originally glue them and they were falling off, so we thought, hey, find a better solution, because when they fell off on set it didn't matter too much. Right, so I'm just cutting the end of this rubber at a slight angle. I've offered that up and I can see there's a bit of an upturn on the rubber, so I'm just going to mark that. Don't want the upturn, want it to look quite pretty. Again, they didn't necessarily look too pretty on the original helmets, but we're trying to make an effort. You know, it's still got that classic 70s shoddiness to it. So, right, so I'm putting that on there, and I'm just squeezing it round, so it's going to act kind of like a spring. Now, I've not glued the back section of this ear, which means I can put a mark on there, and I'm making 2 marks. I'm following the line of the ear, but I'm also going to mark that down there because that's where I actually want to cut it. So if we remove that now, this is the angle that I want to achieve here, but I actually want to cut that same angle there. So there we go. Feed that onto the helmet. Rub off my pencil line. And that is the back rubber in place. And again, you can use a tiny little bit of super glue in little dots here and there, and that won't be coming off. Okay, now I usually start the front with the same angle that I just cut at the back. And it's usually a very good fit. So again, just feed this on. Feed it on, just gently bring that into place where I want it to go. I'm going to mark this with my pencil. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it just a bit bigger. And the reason for that is we can either trim a little bit more off, or maybe we can just squash the rubber up into position, which we can. That's lovely. Now on the original helmets, kind of this point here, where it goes from the cheek to this bulbous bit underneath, just there, and again on this side, on the original helmets, these are cut just to relax it, like so. Just allows it to sit down a little bit tighter. And that is basically the rubber trim installed, meaning we've got no sharp edges on the plastic that are going to interfere with the wearer. Apart from these sharp edges, obviously. But they didn't do anything about them, so I guess you shit out of luck. Wow, this is getting dusty now. It's picking up all the dust off this foam. Right. So we've got here's the rubber trim on. Let's have a little think about the bubble lens here. The first thing you'll notice is it's not green, it's a grey colour, and it's not super dark. But that's how they were. We can see this in a really good example of where to see this is the video of Stephen Lane on the Antiques Roadshow, which is a programme here in the UK. They kind of tip the helmet in such a way that you can see through the eyes and into the void of nothing, so you can see daylight through them, and you can see that they're not super dark. Right, I'm going to trim the bottom just so it's a bit of a tidier edge. These are not cut to any shape, you know, like it's not all cut around, they're just kind of rectangular. Now we are going to have to cut a piece off the top yet, but I'm not 100% sure how much until I start offering it up into position. And I can feel that I'm right up there. When my eyes are kind of in place, I can feel that I'm up beyond here. So from there, I only want, I'm going to want about this much. So I'm just going to trim that off. So I'm looking at this and I can see I'm going to want about 10 mil or something above this this top line. So I'll trim that off, and I won't go too crazy, and I can always go back to it if I want to trim a little bit more off. But this first trim is going to allow me to get right up inside it. As you can see, I've not really been very neat. Just cut that thing right off. Right, I'm going to bring this back in. So I'm going to loosen these screws, and that just gives me a little bit of space. There you can see my little finger. That's in the gap between the faceplate and the panel piece that we put in there. So I'm just going to slip this up behind that. You may want to go from one end, run it along there. I find that usually works quite well. Feed her in. It's not doing today though. Let me peel the corners of it up. Get it. It's difficult to do it so you can see something on camera. But when we're in position, we can talk about it. Right, let's have a look. Okay, that's worked out pretty good. So there you can see the eyes are in position and they're up behind this sandwich in that section and with the panel that we put in. So I'm just going to tighten that up. Okay, I'm fairly pleased with that. Fairly. However, it's got a bit of spring to it. So I'm just going to use a little bit of super glue. And I'm just going to put the super glue, I don't know if you can see this from above. Let me see if I can manoeuvre this. It's very dark in there, it's difficult to see. Look at that. Look at that, people. Fantastic. Right, so this is the inside of the helmet here. We're looking beyond the chin strap. Okay, so there you can see the insert panel that we've put in that we're up behind. That's there. Okay, but this is still moving. So what I'm going to do is I want it to hold it tight up in that position. Okay, so I'm going to draw a pencil line. I'm going to put it where I want it. I'm going to draw a pencil line across the bottom of the infill piece. I'm going to let it sit naturally as it's doing now. I'll be able to see the line. I'll put a little bit of super glue on there and then I'll push it back into position. Okay, you're not going to see a whole lot of this on camera because it's a very difficult shot to achieve, but I think you'll get the impression there. So you can see I'm drawing a line on the bottom of this. As I release it, it springs forward and it shows me where it wants the glue to go. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue, just run it down that edge where I've marked it with the where it needs to sit behind. Push the eyes back into position. And it's all touching now. Alternatively, this is the way I would do it. This is the way I am doing it. But alternatively, there are a couple of areas just on the bridge of the nose, either side, around here, at the bottom of the visor, the bubble eyes. You could also put a little bit of super glue there. But I'd much prefer this method. It's a bit less intrusive and I don't know, I just prefer it. I think it's cleaner, better finish. So I'll just get that glue to go. Let's that. Okay, and that has now held that in perfect position, just where I wanted it. You can see the light inside there shining through. Okay, so that is what our inside's looking like. It's difficult to see because it's just so black. But the eyes are tucked up underneath that infill panel, and from the outside they are looking great. There, bubble eyes sat nice. Perfecto, very happy with that. Okay, so what have we got left? We have got the little greeblies that go on the forehead, the car panel clips, and the decals. Shout out to Jay Tie Pilot again. I think we mentioned him in an early video. Jay has made the decals. Now they do come as square piece, and they are cut out by hand. And this is how we cut them out, because they're not cut out super clean on the original helmets. But I suppose you could make a template and then use a scalpel and go around your template. It's not what they did on the production, it's not the way we do it, but you could do that. It's an option if you want to try and make it look I don't know, like a super clean example. But if you're going to do that, you could probably get different decals, because you're obviously not going for that look, and they'd already be round, and you know, horses for courses. If you check your reference, you can see they're not the cleanest. They're cut all the way around the outside. As long as you're not cutting right into the silver area, I don't think you're going to have a problem. Okay, that's waste. Get rid of that. Into my bin. Right, now then, the next part, probably the more important part when you're applying these. Okay, because of the curvature of the helmet, the double curvature, the decal doesn't particularly want to stick on, so they just made a slit, an incision, a cut from here right up to the end of the decal. Now, if you look, these are all kind of equal sizes, and that one there is a big fat one. And that is the one we're going to cut, and we're going to cut it from the centre, not through the silver, just off centre. Well, it runs up the centre, but it ends up with that off centre. You don't want to cut from there through there, which you could do, but we're not going to do that. Just going to slice it there, nice and clean, one cut.
Have you drew that line on it?
Yeah, so that people can see. Okay, and that is now cut. That's where I want the cut to be. So you can see the silver line is intact. Now when we apply this, we're going to put it on, and it's going to overlap ever so slightly that way. Okay, it's correct, it's intentional, that's what we're trying to do here. Okay. Wipe off my the dust. I don't want any dust underneath the decal. Right, so I've got some reference up on my computer here of the position of the decals. I'm doing a background one. So I'll copy one of the background helmets, I guess. Get these moving. Right. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Goes quite close to the Mohawk. About an inch from the bottom. Don't copy mine now. Have a look at the reference. Just smooth it down. Let me get this out of the way so you can see. Gently smooth it into position. So as you can see, I'm not using any water to apply these, which is a method that is sometimes used for applying the decals. There's no need, there she is, sitting pretty. Okay, let's do the other side. I'm going to try and get a reference of the other side so I can see. Okay, and same again, that same side first, which is now going to be on the inside. I'm just tearing that half of that off, just to make it easier to handle. And this is all pretty much just eyeballing. As I said, we've not used water. You can apply a little bit of heat if you need to. You shouldn't need to, but it sometimes helps if you've got a bit of a bubble or a crease or something. Right, get that going. I've left half of this on because you don't want to get any dust or anything nasty in there. Okay, and I'm just moving around. Coming back to that overlap point. Like so. Okay, and that now that is looking mean. Okay, so we've got the decals on, we've got the air greeblies on, we've got the rubber trim, and we've got the bubble eyes in position. We're almost there now. Almost there. Right, I'm going to put the foam in. So we have this piece that goes in the centre trident. I usually tuck it in that that panel that we put in that covers the hole. Okay, just check to make sure you've not got foam gushing or oozing out from anywhere at the front there, and that it looks nice. Get it all set up in there. Right, I'm going to cut about an inch off the bottom. Just a little too long. That's just sat up into the back of the helmet now. So that's just taking up a little bit of that void. That's how much I cut off. It's about an inch thick and it's about an inch long, so it's like a inch square of the foam. Okay, the petal goes in. Seems to go in the reverse way as it as you would see it in a stormtrooper helmet. I'm not sure why, but that's how we see it in many of the photographs. And that gives us something that looks like that. Okay, that is our foam in place. Right, there's one other thing. We've got our pillbox to apply. And the pillbox, this is a resin cast of one of the original style boxes. And it's going to sit around there. Needs a wipe, it's got fingerprints on it. But it's kind of slightly higher up than the gaps on the side. Now I don't usually do this, but I'm going to mark this because I'm going to have to hold this in a way I'm not going to be able to see it very well, to glue it on so you can see what's going on. We're asking for disaster here, aren't we? Right, let's just put a little pencil mark approximate centre. Right, and I'm going to use the super glue again. So we'll just put a little on the back here. Not too much, you don't want it splurging out everywhere. Now obviously this thing has got a very flat bottom and this has got a curve going on. So what we want to try and do is almost force it flat. I'm going to be very careful doing this because if you don't do it correctly, it's very easy for it to just fling off. Right, this is how I would normally do it. And I'm pushing it really into the helmet, applying a bit of pressure. So it's going to try and take a little bit of that curvature out of it because it's gripping this piece. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Have to clean that residue off from the activator and all of this dust before we do our glam shots of this helmet. Right. I'll show you this properly when it's all complete, but we're getting the idea. We've just got these two little clips to go on there. Nearly lost it. So they are going to sit here and they just kind of cover the join, this straight line there. Yeah, so as you can see, that one is covering that line. And there you can see the line there. That's the difference it makes. Different? That's the difference it makes. Right. So because this infill panel is slightly lower than the faceplate now, try and get that. Because this panel is slightly lower than this, and because this panel has a, let me make this work. Right, because we have this base and then it's raised by a few millimeters, that's going to allow me to stick this piece to that panel and then slide that down over the faceplate. And that's going to be beautiful. Now there is ever so slightly a top and a bottom to these pieces, so you're probably going to want to get them. Let's see if this helmet's got them on. Okay, my reference hasn't got these still remaining, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do is, oh, it's beautiful this. I'll put this picture up when we were talking about the trident and getting this central, if you remember that. If you remember us talking about getting this trident here in the centre. We'll have a look at this picture. Yeah, I'm sure you can do better than this. I'm going to bob these on. I'm just going to put a slight amount of super glue on that nice flat edge that we've got. And I'm going to put it in position and then drop it. So as not to get glue everywhere. And just hold it with my finger in position there. Now you can be as haphazard if you want. There is, as I said, there is kind of a top and a bottom or a left and a right. And I'm just going to try and get them both in the same orientation. Just because it's going to look a little bit more uniform. And that's not the right way, and that is the right way. So I've got enough time to spin it round. Just sit that one a little bit higher. I'm just eyeballing it so that they look something like intentional. There you go. So as you can see, it's softened that abrupt line that we had going across. You're going to see them just fine in a second when we show the finished helmet. There you go. And that is our finished background tie helmet. Complete. Move some of this stuff out of the way and we can probably appreciate it. Get rid of all my rubbish. Voila. Oozing with black goodness. Okay, there she is. Beautiful. Very happy. It's actually quite a satisfying build. And I'm going to put this helmet on one side now. And at some point, one thing that we didn't do is the screws here are brass still. I'm going to paint them black with just a tiny little bit of touch-up pen or a small brush with a bit of black paint. If hoses are going in here, we can cut these out. But that's fairly simple. You get in there with the scalpel or the X-Acto knife. They're not cut out neatly, to be quite honest. We may do that we're going to revisit this helmet and convert it into a tie, because this is going to be a tie helmet. So watch this space for an upcoming tutorial where this will become its brother there. Okay, but in the meantime, we're probably going to be looking at creating the chest box and the armour for the tie. And as and when we do that, I'll probably show how the holes are cut in the helmet, because we're going to be attaching the whole thing together. So thanks for watching, guys. That is building an ATAT helmet. As you can see, not difficult. Sure, you're capable. And if you're not, we are. So on that note, I'll catch you in the next one.